Welcome to Business is Good, the podcast all about what it means to be in business in the 21st century. Small and medium-sized businesses are the lifeblood of the UK economy, and globally they can and will have a huge impact on society, the economy, and how we live our lives. From technology disruption to reworking a solution to solve the world's biggest problem, Business is Good is a podcast about what it takes to be successful and how every business defines that in different ways. Business is no longer just about being defined by what you do, but it's about giving back and redefining the problems and how we solve them in a way that works for you. I'm your host, Caroline Sumners, and I'll be giving you weekly inspirational stories from business owners who are building business and solving problems. Hi everybody, and welcome to another edition of Business is Good podcast. I'm your host, Caroline Sumners, and today I am talking to the fantastic Natasha Takahashi. Natasha is an expert in chatbots and messenger marketing, and is also the co-founder of School of Bots, which teaches people and businesses how to use this kind of ever-growing technology. So today, in an episode recorded mid-coronavirus shutdown, Natasha, who is based in California, so also in the middle of lockdown, just for context, we are talking about how a small business might be able to take some of the tips and suggestions she has for optimizing marketing, sales, and operations aspects of your business to make and automate them slightly, to have one-on-one conversations with your clients. So I've known Natasha about a year, and I was really grateful when she said that she would come on and talk about bots and this growing medium that you can use for your marketing. And Natasha does talk about it in the interview, but some fairly significant updates were made and announcements were made by Mark Zuckerberg about 2 weeks ago around the Messenger platform, some of which we've seen as a direct result of what's been going on with coronavirus lockdown and the way we've now all started to take our businesses online. So enjoy this episode with Natasha, and hopefully as a business you might learn what you can and can't do or should be doing with chatbots. Okay, thanks. Okay, so hello, Natasha Takahashi. How are you today?
Hello. I'm doing fantastic. Things feel as normal since I'm typically stuck inside all day anyways, working.
Yes.
But no, everything is good. Luckily, this week has been crazy, but overall, just doing good and staying positive.
Cool. I was actually saying to someone the other day that although yes, I'm not going out and buying numerous cups of coffee and wasting an inordinate amount of time, it now appears that I do going to buy coffee. Actually, I haven't found the kind of like working at home aspect hard or anything like that, because we're kind of used to it, right? So we're used to sort of like getting on and doing our thing. And so that it hasn't been hard. It's just been not wasting my money and time on coffee.
Yeah, no, exactly. You save quite a bit of money, right, from not going out to eat all the time or from not going and doing random entertainment things, So it's definitely, I think, a good time for a lot of people to reflect on not only their habits, but also career-wise. A lot of companies are having to shift completely online, people realizing, do I really want to do this, or I really like working from home. How can I find a different job that allows me to do this all the time? Or what's the future look like?
Well, funnily enough, I've done some of that myself. I don't know whether you guys have, but I've done some of that myself because I was trying to, doing too many things really. And I've used this time to really think about what are the things that I enjoy doing. And you'll be pleased to know that finally I'm actually going to do something with the education that I did with you guys. last year.
Good.
So,
Yeah, I'm
because I really
excited
do
for you.
believe that messenger and chat marketing is the future. So, so that kind of nicely leads into, tell us about who you are and what your business is, and and what you do.
Yeah, so I at this point would consider myself or call myself a chat marketing expert and educator, where for the last 4 years I have essentially dedicated my entire life to this coming industry. And it originally started with Facebook Messenger bots, because that was the first way or place where marketers and business owners can automate conversations between their customers and leads and their business. So it was like a huge groundbreaking technology. And as we've talked about, we thought the adoption would be much faster on the user and the business side. But even now, not everybody knows what an automated conversation is. But in a sense, everyone has interacted with one, whether it's on Facebook Messenger or on a website or even text, because there are these kind of 6 levels of a chat marketing strategy that we've discovered over the last 4 years that goes from autoresponder, like, you message a business, let's say on Facebook, and it says, okay, great, we got your question, we'll get back to you soon. Like, that's the baseline kind of level thing. Same thing with text and some of the other channels, websites as well. And then you go all the way up to these AI powered, holistically implemented into a business types of strategies. So when we started, though, we had no idea of any of this, right? And quite frankly, the rest of the world didn't either. It was very, very new. Facebook Messenger was the first place where you could really do this. And it still is the most accessible and affordable place to get started. So that's why we advocate to start there and then move on to other platforms. So when we got started, 2016, I had actually decided to leave college in order to start my agency. So I did that. My co-founder decided to leave his job to do this. So we kind of jumped into it blindly without having run a business before, but we both had experience at startups. We were always devouring education and books and stuff. So I wouldn't say we were completely alone, but in a sense we were. And then furthermore, we decided to leave the country and travel while we did this, because that's the dream that you get sold.
Right? That's what you do.
Yeah. You want to live this lifestyle, digital nomad business life, and totally not as it seems. But it was definitely quite an experience. We traveled for about 1.5 years in Asia, Australia. We're from California, so we went very far from home, and then finally came back, and things have grown exponentially since we returned. Since, of course, now we're actually focused. I'm not having to figure out where to eat or where to work out or where to live. We lived in like over 24 apartments during our time traveling. So it was just a whirlwind. And during that time, luckily, though, we were able to build our agency despite not knowing what we were doing when we first jumped into it. And we built it to over 7 figures within that first year. So during that time, then that leads me to our second business, which is School of Bots, which is how we first connected when you joined our program. And we started School of Bots because about 1.5 years into it, we realized how little education there still was around how this actually helped businesses make money and cut costs. There was a lot of buzz around, here's how to build this new thing called a chatbot, and no one knew what that was. People were kind of reiterating their websites within a conversation, and that's not really what conversations are supposed to do. Conversations are very much so this back and forth interaction where step by step you digestibly give somebody what they're looking for and get value that way. So we decided to start School of Bots as a kind of beta program initially. So we partnered with a platform in the space, ChatFuel, who I think you are familiar with. And for about the first year, we worked with them to not necessarily just teach their platform, but they kind of supported us in a sense where we were able to piggyback a little bit off of their brand. So it was good for launching ourselves, since we didn't really have credibility or authority in the education space, let's say. And then we realized quickly, though, that we couldn't be biased towards one platform, and we started to then expand our partnerships everywhere. And that's kind of led us to today, where now we've created more of an education brand than just one single program, and we'll be expanding all of our offers actually this year, which I'm excited about, growing our team a lot. And at this point, we've been lucky enough to share on like over 70 stages and podcasts, just like this one, where we can share just like what's going on right now, how businesses can take advantage of this. And I know we're going to dive into that. So that's a little bit of background.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think that's a really good introduction to what you're doing. So it kind of leads me on to, why are, from your perspective, why should a business think about a chatbot or conversational marketing? Why should they even be thinking about that right now?
Yeah, I think the best place to start thinking about this is understanding what an automated conversation does, because all businesses need to have conversations with their leads and their customers to survive. And right now that happens in a lot of different places, and it will continue to happen in more places as more communication channels become available to us. So, initially it was just email, phone number. You walk into a business to have a conversation, find out if your problem can be solved by their products and their solutions. And then it quickly grew to, okay, now you need a website. Now you need to be on social media, and you've got all these other communication channels where you're kind of communicating through your content, through comments. But then this idea of a private conversation has continued to increase over the years. Like, people want to know, what can this do for me one-on-one, rather than having to be in like this group setting of social media, right?
Yeah.
It's ultimately what we're familiar with anyways, talking to friends and family, colleagues on platforms like Slack, text, iMessage, if you've got an iPhone, WhatsApp, as we were talking about, and even all the social platforms. There's a way to direct message people, Twitter, Instagram, DM, Facebook, of course, has Messenger, which has completely branched off to be its own platform. So we're at that point where people and businesses are already having conversations here, but it can exponentially help a business if they can automate a lot of that conversation and either even take someone from a cold lead to a sale without any human intervention, or at least get them to the point where they're highly qualified and ready to jump into a sales conversation with a human or a support team member who is a human. So that's kind of the baseline understanding of then what Facebook Messenger did was open up this entire new shift in customer communication, because up until now, this wasn't really available, even on platforms like SMS or WhatsApp, Instagram, Messenger. Like, businesses could have profiles, but none of those conversations were automated back and forth. And so what ManyChat, Chatfuel, some of these platforms that enabled people like us who are not developers with these out-of-the-box solutions to create these very complicated back and forth conversations, tie that into your CRM, your other databases, your email marketing software, all these other platforms you may use in your business. Now, all of a sudden, you're able to do exactly what I said, which is take people from a cold lead or an unhappy customer, let's say, and help them through their problem without having to dedicate your human resources to it. So it's ultimately, that's the premise of it. And so Facebook Messenger is the first place where you can do that. And that's why, as a business, you should be looking there first. There's well over 1.6 billion monthly active users there now. Messaging has increased actually by 50% during this quarantine time when people are spending a lot of time there. And Messenger has changed regulations and policies over the last few years, but people like us understand that is just allowing the platform to stay valuable to the user, because otherwise users will jump off and then businesses won't have anyone to talk to. And moreover, Messenger just announced a few updates about 2 weeks ago. Mark Zuckerberg did a Facebook Live for about an hour, and he shared that they'll be actually competing with Zoom, which we're recording this on right now, where there will be admin capabilities, recording, you'll be able to have all your business conferences there, and that will increase the number of users who are utilizing it, because they're going to tell WhatsApp users that they should call each other on Messenger, funny enough. I'm sure they'll do that with Instagram as well. And that'll also increase user retention on the platform. So all of it kind of leads to them really pushing traffic to Messenger and supporting this initiative, which over 40 million businesses already use Facebook Messenger, both automated and manual messages. So Facebook Messenger is the first place, because once you're positioned there, you have experience in understanding what your users want to hear from you. How can you utilize a chat bot, aka automated conversations, in your marketing, your sales, and your operations to support your entire business? And then from there, be able to apply those strategies, the copywriting experience you've learned that works and appeals to your audience, just the overall experience that you create for someone and what your audience enjoys. Take those lessons and apply them to all the coming messaging platforms. So you've got SMS, which is actually already available, like interactive back and forth. Very simple compared to Messenger, but still a place where you can loop it in and combine it with Messenger. You've got WhatsApp bots and Instagram bots, which already exist, but they're not able to be publicly used by every single business. There's still an application process, and it's a little bit more simple as well. You don't have the richness of the Messenger bots, dynamic images and buttons and all these kind of fancy things, right? That make it a unique experience compared to other platforms. But they're all eventually going there. So Messenger is a guinea pig, not only for Facebook to then apply to all their other platforms and even other messaging platforms owned by other companies, looking at what they're doing to figure out how they can release this for themselves, but also for the businesses. So you can have a place to start and then be poised to take advantage of the next messaging platforms as they become available.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's an important point. I think that it's sort of like learning the sort of process, if you like, within Messenger. But you can, and you mentioned a tool, ManyChat, which is a piece of software or a software company that allows you to do this clever automations and send leads off to places and do all sorts of things. But ManyChat also you can use on other platforms, can't you? You can use on your website, and you can use Messenger in different ways, can't you? Not just within Facebook Messenger.
Yes, that's one of the advantages for sure, is that there are over 7 different ways to capture traffic into your Messenger bot. And then you can also have that conversation on a website, just like you would see a regular support chat widget. But instead, that conversation is being driven by Facebook Messenger. So all the automated conversations you've already programmed there, again, programmed, but not with actual code, you would have available there for you. And the great thing about it is the conversation follows the user. So let's say they jump off your website after they ask a question or two, maybe they got distracted, need to go do something, but now you can follow up with them still on Facebook Messenger, but that can happen on their desktop Facebook.com, or Messenger came up with a desktop app. They also will get that message on their mobile device, but in the Messenger app. So it's a great way to see their chat history and also be able to interact with you as they move. And that's really what we're going towards as well, is that the idea, for the simplest example, you're, let's say, talking to your Alexa or Google Home inside your car. Well, now you get home, you drive into your garage, you close the garage and then come into your house, and now you're still having that same conversation. Maybe you're trying to order dinner or make an appointment with someone. And so it follows you, let's say, from room to room. And that's that multimodality that Messenger is doing in a very simple way here.
Yeah, no, and I think that's the important thing, because if you think about telephone, if the old days when you made a telephone call, that was it. It was just the one way. But here you can ask a question on one platform and get the answer when you're somewhere else. And I think that's the powerful thing. And you mentioned earlier about cutting costs, and you can save time and you can save money maybe in getting to your leads or getting to your customers better. So maybe people listening are thinking, this all sounds too complicated for me. I'm sure this is just for big businesses. But actually, for me, it's a perfect solution for a small business, because it's actually, if you can automate just start with a few processes within your business, you can automate things that actually take the load off of you doing it, like you doing you doing the manual reply to emails or the manual thing. So I think that's an important thing to think about, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's definitely a big question people have. Now, the better question to be asking yourself if you are a small business owner or work for a small business and think this would be interesting to implement is, who is going to do the implementation for you? Because chat marketing works for any business. Every business has marketing, sales, and operations pieces that they could be automating, that they could be increasing the revenue from, that they could be automating customer support in, etc. So definitely every business can benefit. And the great thing about Facebook Messenger, as I've tried to reiterate, and I'm just always continuing to say, is that it's so accessible and affordable to create a solution on the platform. You can do it for free if you want to use, let's say, a platform like ManyChat or ChatFuel. They have free options, and then their paid options start at like 10 or 15 bucks. And if you're not making 10 bucks back from your automated conversations, then you may want to configure your strategy a little bit more or see how you can better use it. But for sure, you will get your ROI back from paying just a really nominal fee. But The reason I asked the first question is because that's ultimately going to let you know whether this is something you can implement now, or if maybe your business isn't ready necessarily to bring this in fully. Now, obviously, just automating one piece, even if you don't holistically implement it into your business, can be helpful. Like even adding FAQs or something, but then really understanding what more you can do with it. And then if you are a small business, have a small team, it may make sense for you to work with an agency to help you implement this. Just like if you want social media done, or you want to run advertising on Facebook or Google or Instagram or YouTube, typically you do want to work with an expert, because most likely if you're a local business, you're probably not super savvy in marketing and tech, let's say, because your craft may be one specific thing. And so if you don't have a background in it, it's going to be tough for you to understand like how to approach this, what to do with it, in all honesty. So it makes a lot of sense for small businesses to work with agencies, but also if you do have, let's say, an intern or someone internally to do it for you, then fantastic. Go ahead and do that, and you can grow on it, right? You don't need to do everything at once, for sure.
Yeah. So is there sort of three things, or maybe what are the sort of the top things that you think, if someone is thinking about implementing this into their business, what should they think about first? Aside from who's going to implement it for you, what are the sort of like three things to consider?
The first thing would be where you want to start. And in order to get to that, because that will be thing 2 that I'll share. Thing 1 would be to actually take a look at your business and kind of dream for a moment and say, what all could I automate? Where could we maybe be making more money? Is it in recovering abandoned purchases? Is it in helping people with a better loyalty card system? If you're still doing punch cards and people aren't bringing them back because they forget them, there's a lot of different areas of the business, most likely, that if you just daydream for a second and think about it, and then just like write it out on a piece of paper, or if you want to be tech savvy, do it on like a table or a Google Sheet or something, or just create 3 columns for yourself: marketing, sales, and operations, and think about the different use cases that you're thinking about in your head, because that's really what they are. If you wanted to recover abandoned carts or increase loyalty, like I mentioned, or automate support in some way, then those will fall under one of these 3 buckets, and they're all use cases. And then from there, now we move on to thing 2, which is going to figure out where you want to start. And that starting point is going to be a combination of taking one thing from each column, where if you want to take someone from a lead to a purchase in the sales column, so from the M to the S, you've got to have that O kind of in the middle, because someone's going to have questions before they purchase, or going to need help after they purchase if there's, some instructions or how-to that they need to go through. So those 3 columns will always play a role. So understanding what's the first thing you want to take from each of these is going to be really important, because there needs to be one from every column. And then finally, the third thing would be to take a converting campaign that's already working for you. This could be, let's say, a giveaway campaign you run every month. This could be, if you have marketing funnels in place, maybe you give away a free PDF or a free video course or webinar, whatever it is that you have available, to run that campaign that has already worked for you in the past, ideally with email automation, paid traffic, however you ran, as long as you've kind of proven to yourself your audience is very interested in this and it worked well, it brought you ROI. Yes. To recreate that funnel inside of a chatbot, so using a platform like ManyChat, and then keeping those 3 things in mind that we talked about in thing 2 that you've decided to implement initially. And when you do that, now we're going to create this evergreen system where you have a baseline. Let's say you make $10,000 from this funnel in that first month. Well, if you do the same amount of traffic, if you're doing everything kind of similarly, but maybe optimizing a few things for month 2, then ideally you would get that same amount there, where for month 2 now, instead of focusing on continuing to optimize that, you can now move on to other areas and continue to grow everything that you have in this automated conversational arsenal, if you will. So those would be kind of the 3 steps that I would say. I know they're kind of more interconnected than 3 individual things, but those are really the steps you need to take in order to just have a place you can start without getting overwhelmed, or without kind of being all over the place, and then you don't generate really any results from the channel.
Yeah, I mean, I guess just to touch on that, I guess the important thing to note is that you can have multiple campaigns, if you like, happening at once. And that I think maybe sometimes people think, oh, it's just a continuation. But actually, the multiple entry points that you have and the multiple triggers into Messenger mean that you can have multiple campaigns happening as you could on social media as you could on email. And therefore it's no different in that respect to those platforms.
Yeah, absolutely. It will depend on which platform you decide to use in terms of not being code savvy. If you are not a developer, then make sure that you're utilizing a platform that allows you to do that, because it's absolutely possible. But if you choose to use a out of the box solution, like a software that doesn't allow you to do that, just keep that in mind, do your research. I would recommend using manychat.com because they just give you everything and more that you need, and they're always adding new features, and they really are the leader in this space and have been for the last 4 years. So that's probably the best place to
I was looking at their the thing that they posted the other day about they'd been doing some work with the CDC on the coronavirus stuff. And I actually then immediately went to although I'm not in the US, and it was just like everywhere it's going to send me is nowhere I can go. But it was so interesting to see how that had all been put together. So I guess the important thing to say is, even if you're not sort of like an e-commerce store or somebody that is trying to sell something, you can use it as an informational, and as you said, FAQs, operationally, you can use it for getting across that important information that you want to be able to serve to people in the way that they want to have it. Because it's like a pick a mix almost, isn't it? Because it's the menu. It's like, where do you want to go now? And you just select it and there it is. And it's so super responsive and instantaneous and we're all impatient these days, so no one wants to wait for anything, do they? I've pressed the button. I want the answer right now. And I guess that's the beauty of Messenger, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that I'm actually looking at it right now because I hadn't had a chance to look through it. Yeah, I saw Mike's post and then I got distracted probably and never looked at it. So I'll have to have a look. But absolutely, another example would be encouraging people to go and vote for, different times during the year, or just get the correct information out there. Like there's a lot of nonprofits that have been able to raise amazing amounts of donations. And I guess that is tied to e-commerce. But at the same time, they're spreading great information that people just have questions about, doesn't always necessarily end in a sale. So absolutely agreed. It's just really helping increase your reach in a way that has never been possible. One-to-one messaging at scale, as we always say.
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right. So I guess just one final question. Aside from yourselves, obviously, with your own fabulous messenger bot that you have, is there anyone that you would say, go take a look at that as an example of how someone can really successfully implement a messenger strategy?
Yes, it totally depends on what you're looking for. A lot of campaigns, or not a lot of campaigns, a lot of bots are campaign driven, which means that you may not be able to experience everything that they have to share unless you opt in through a Facebook ad or a specific link that they have shared. So you may not be able to see everything, but in regards to good experiences, Sephora, actually, before I say any of these as well, just to preface, you may not be able to experience some of them depending on where you live, because let's say, for example, you're in Australia, you may not be able to message a US-based page if it's a franchise. For example, 7-Eleven, you can only message the page in your country. So there's a few things around that just to know. But in regards to just great bots overall worldwide, Sephora definitely is groundbreaking. They were working directly with Messenger for a long time to develop their augmented reality filters where, you'd go through the sales process and then you say, oh, this lipstick color looks nice. I want to try it on. And then you're able to put on this filter where it shows you, what you would theoretically look like with the lipstick. So that's a really cool example of how all these different technologies are kind of merging into one in this conversation, and Messenger is working pretty aggressively on the AR front, as well as like even something as simple as having an image with someone's name in it that says, hey, Natasha, come and get your 25% off a pizza today, or whatever the case may be. Happy birthday, or, all of that can be automated, but it feels so personal and customized to us. And quite frankly, I don't think that novelty will ever really go away, because we are always, flattered, and it brings a smile to your face if someone says happy birthday to you, or if they say your name even, right? So there's a lot of really cool things you can do from that front. But without going down that rabbit hole, Sephora's great. Hipmunk is another example that's completely different. So from beauty to actually tourism and travel, if you're familiar with websites like Expedia or Kayak, Hipmunk is similar. They try to find you the best deal and take you through a conversation to find out where you want to travel, when you want to go, and find you these cool like bundled package deals and the best flights, etc. So they've done a really good job with their persona, because they have a little chipmunk, play on the word for hipmunk, where he is their mascot, kind of takes you through the whole experience. And they're also pretty witty with some of their stuff, some of their copy. So it's a great overall like fun experience to go through that's very different from most time when you're trying to book travel, which can be stressful and confusing and so many different options. So those would be two examples. Let's go into like the e-commerce side. So one of my favorite e-commerce chatbots is 100% Pure. Now this is a little bit more simple, but they do a really great job of offering special deals only inside Messenger, not available anywhere else. And I've actually tried to, because I also shop with them. They create like organic skincare and whatnot. So I've tried to get like free shipping before on their website by using like a code I saw inside of Messenger. It doesn't work. You can only do it inside of Messenger. So for example, that's one of their deals, is that if you buy through Messenger at any time, you'll always get free shipping, whereas you always have to pay for shipping anywhere else. They also will run like, special deals every few weeks. And they do a great job also of abiding by policies, which is really important. One of my other kind of factors in saying this is a great Messenger experience, but they tend to break the policies, so can't always recommend them. They do a great job as well of that, and they have everything tied into their Shopify backend. I believe they use Shopify, so you can see if you're an e-commerce brand, like what that might look like for you. They are lacking in some areas in terms like persona or kind of creating more of like this nurturing experience, but they're an e-commerce brand that you're going to be, continuing to buy from if you invest in their brand and, in their mission and everything. So that's not necessarily their purpose. Their purpose is to turn you into a repeat customer. So those would be a few examples. Another one, let's say on the nonprofit side is, and I'm going to forget the name for a second, my brain.
And I won't ask you to give bad examples because I don't want to put you on the spot. But I think
no worries.
And, I think everyone will, once they start looking at it, you can start to see good and bad examples quite quickly.
Yes. For sure. One last one I'll mention, just to give people kind of like this holistic view so they can take a look at a few different industries, is the Sierra Club. I was like, I know it's Sierra, and then I thought there was another word, but Sierra Club is a nonprofit. They're really big in the United States, and I believe they're global as well, but they do a great job of creating these experiences. For example, they're all about, wildlife conservation and a few different areas around like overall forest conservation, given their name. So what they've done in the past is they create these experiences where you can go through like, as if you were taking a hike, or as if you were experiencing this national park that for whatever reason is facing some sort of danger, or an endangered species, whatever it might be. And they take you through a series of videos and photos where you kind of choose your own adventure and are able to go through what it feels like, kind of get emotionally invested as well. And then at the end, they ask you if you want to donate. So it's a great experience that also leads them to gathering donations for their cause. And the numbers around their experience, I cannot remember them now for the life of me. We did an interview with a guy who did their bot about 2 years ago, I think, or early last year. So I can't really remember the numbers off the top of my head, but they had gathered a lot of donations, I believe millions of dollars. They have a really big list. They've made a big impact. And they've also gone on, he and his team have gone on to help other nonprofits, for example, help certain demographics vote, or or contribute to a certain cause. So overall, really powerful way also to disseminate information like we talked about.
Cool. Great. I hope you enjoyed that episode with Natasha. She's got a ton of experience around chatbots, her and her co-founder, Kyle Willis. And do check out those examples of chatbot experiences that she mentioned and really start to think about how, as a business, you might be able to use some of those within your own business and to drive customer experience. So hope you've enjoyed that one. That's it for another week, and see you again. Tune in next week when we'll have more inspirational stories talking about moving your business beyond what it is and moving it more towards what you're in business for, what's important, and doing good and changing the way things should be done.